Well, this is cool.
Yeah.
Right, stuff.
3 days, it was pretty good.
Yeah. I did stuff yesterday. I need to do more.
Our number 2 son's coming in from Colorado for a few days and mentioned that.
So that means
should do some curling.
Perfect.
Pick up a little cash. I got a good saw for him, nice and sharp.
Yep.
That's
good.
Yeah. I've done.
You haven't bit the bullet and got the electric,
Oh, boy, I've been looking. You know, if I had a lot of metal ones, that'd be really the ticket.
yeah,
This 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, where you start doing
research
30 cuts
and she's
per tree or 40 cuts a tree.
Yeah.
Goes to her.
I tried talking my dad into buying a couple of sets, but
Before, she's the.
yeah, it speeds everything up and you're more comfortable, so you prune from 8 till noon, and usually by the time my hand's so sore at the end of that, both arms are so sore, I don't wanna do anymore, I wanna go do something else, but you're not doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have that battery pack here, so.
It's a show.
She was excited about this.
It was like half the
I
price.
don't know if she's excited. Because
One
she
went
How many
each
other
ridge,
people
and
you
each
have
ridge
forgotten?
had-
You think
There's
she's
about
these things
$2,000
done
top.
Steve says,
Oh, we got a meeting.
Oh, we have.
She said, you still got some ways to score points. And she
It was
said,
less money, and I'm kind of
which is just
thinking
like, especially if they're.
and the companies are catching up.
Yeah,
The letters from the handicap.
and I've seen some of those half-price ones, I almost ordered one, but I don't,
And
do you-
then sign it.
there was no
Accessibility. page.
documentation of how well they worked, or
Yeah.
no reviews.
They might be able to point you to.
Letters from-
Yeah,
You know,
see if they like them.
see what it's looking like, but I don't know.
Because that's what, I mean, all of our trees are young, and, oh, yeah, you get, I mean, up to 80 cuts depending on, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're just, you do 50, 60 trees and then you're sick of it.
For disabled in the city, they have to, they did a whole.
Yeah, which 80 cuts is not only on a certain section of Orchard, but at my house where they used to put a lot of chicken shit on there.
I'm great with faces too, but not always names.
I mean, it's trees.
That's our slippery.
I used to be good with
Yeah,
names.
they just,
The executive director there, I did an interview with him.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Just.
great big tall plants.
3 o'clock.
No, he had.
What?
I had 3
several
o'clock.
up there.
Oh, really? You're ready to go?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna call this meeting to order.
Can you undo the,
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Barron.
Here.
Mr. Christensen.
Present.
Mr. Barracks is absent. Mr. Gabel.
Here.
Ms. Lautner.
I didn't hear anything from her.
I didn't either.
Okay, we'll call her absent. Mr. Noonan.
Here.
Mr. Popa.
Here.
Mr. Robbins is absent. Mr. Smith.
Here.
And Mr. Walter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Is there any public comment? I don't see anybody here. Laura?
Well, I might as well take the liberty, the first stapled document that shows Leelanau County Parks with a map on it, that is the entire portion of the county capital improvement plan that references stuff for parks.
Okay.
So you have the overview and then the actual table with what's been added. If you keep that to the front of your binder as just a little reminder,
Reference
and
item.
then if you add to it, write a little note if there's something else you plan on adding. I imagine Trudy, who is our planning community development director, will probably be putting out a blanket request to all department heads in a month or so about this year's additions. So review it, highlight whatever is pertinent to the parks, and then if there's anything you think needs to be added, write a little note, and then when you get to that point of adding and extending our CIP, we'll have that. Otherwise, everything I think is self-explanatory. You've got your new binder. Anything that you received today, put it under the March tab. And we are ready to go.
Okay. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved?
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We've got an agenda. Moving on to action items, we got a set of minutes to approve.
They look okay to me. I can make a motion to approve them.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Popa, second by Behrens. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the financials.
Not much to say on the financials. We're at 2.22% of our budget.
Spring hasn't hit yet, so we don't have any frozen water lines.
No.
I did talk to Tim about moving the structure. It's on his list. He just hasn't, I told him sooner than later. I know he's a busy guy, but just please get in there and get it out.
Well, I could add to that in that I had emailed him thinking maybe he would respond better to an email. And he did respond the next day.
Oh,
So I told him I would talk to Chet about getting it in the motion, or the works to get a transmittal done for a voucher for the $150 permit fee.
Okay,
Because I talked to Amber what was needed. She said if it's considered commercial, it'd be 150. If he thinks he's gonna do something residentially, it'd be 100. And he confirmed that he's looking at probably doing a commercial thing.
okay.
Yeah. So we'll get that taken care of, get the check cut, and then he's gotta actually pull the permit.
Okay. And if you can't ever get a hold of him, just let me know.
Okay.
And I'll go to his house. I usually have a pretty good idea where he's at, or can swing by there in a
Okay.
short amount of time. Okay, moving on to, we gotta approve the financials. Is there any questions?
I have a question, just as the newbie, I see this first item, the assistant, temporary office assistant, there's zero appropriation at this time. How do you get an appropriation on that line?
They will write a budget amendment to tackle any overages or underages. Yeah. The accounting department will take care of that. Historically, from the perspective of this being a generally funded commission, they're really loose with their interpretation on line items, and that I don't want to say rob Peter to pay Paul, but it's kind of like that, where it's a very fluid budget. And if there's more in one, they'll do some adjustments in there.
So we're not dealing with strictly the amount within the
Right.
Parks and Rec.
Well,
What's the bottom line?
you are, but you know, if some of your line items say zero, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it is. And it probably wouldn't hurt, since you are new, to maybe have a little discussion with our finance director, Jen Zawicki, to get a better understanding. In fact, you'll probably understand it better than I do. So,
Now, Charlie, are you asking about coverage for your?
no, our esteemed minutes taker gets paid.
And that's what isn't showing.
The TOA, yep. He was questioning the temporary office assistant line item, which is zeroed out, and I believe Melinda brought that to our attention at the last meeting.
So the question would be, is there an action that needs to be taken by this group to get that thing allocated?
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Move to approve.
Did we have a motion?
Second.
He just made it.
Who?
Christensen.
Oh, okay, so motion by Christensen,
Support?
To a second.
and who seconded?
Okay. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Grant discussion.
Well, I added that because of discussion that we had at the last meeting. I thought perhaps Michael might want to update committee members on the discussion he had with our DNR grant, regional grant coordinator, which everyone should have received a copy of that email back and forth.
Yeah, each of you have a copy of the Miles Kimberly Park area, the highlighted orange area. The 0.83 mile loop is what we would like to see paved. It would be one of the few areas in the region that would be handicap access, and that would include accessibility to the restrooms from behind, okay, as you're walking down the trail, and then handicap access at the P, where it says P for parking. We'd have 2 sites there, estimating trail usage at potentially 50 people, okay? It's, according to John, it's 1 per 25, and so we'll put 2 with the van accessibility parking in between, so you have lots of space to get people in and out. We're on a bit of a rush because of the deadline, and with the deadline, we're supposed to have it turned in by April 1st with the cost estimate. It was short notice because we didn't even know it existed until just a short time ago, and I was on vacation, then took off and went on another vacation. And so Don wasn't able to be here. So what we're looking for is to have put together a plan that's a lot more tight with the cost estimate and the design, which is coming together. And then we need to, at the next board meeting, put together a request to the Board of Commissioners, okay, with this amount, because we would be looking for a minimum of 25% backing from some other source for the cost of the project. That's what the grant people require. Alexandria was very helpful in sharing a lot of information. There's 2 different ways to go. If it's below 150,000 or below, it'll be a recreation passport grant that we would apply for, and if it's going to be greater than 150,000, it would certainly be less than 3. We would go for the Michigan Trust Fund with the DNR, and so it's kind of dicey because there was a mention of 150,000 to 175,000, but according to what Rick had told me, that the pavement and the gravel would be $68,000 to cover a mile. Now the mile would cover the entire loop and the parking and the accessibility. So if we just say a mile, because the loop is 0.83, right. All right, and the parking would be just a small portion of that, and then to have the trail go up to the back of the bathroom, then that would also cover that. So just asking for a 1 mile cost by Elmer's, I think would cover it very nicely. The grant, which Dave already knows because he's had lots of experience, which I didn't know, it's designed on a point basis. And so the points are scored with a whole list of things, accessibility and need, public support. When I say public support, it really goes a long way, according to Alexandria, if we have letters from the public, especially handicapped people. It'd be nice if we manage to follow through with this, get letters from some friends that are handicapped that would be using the trail, because it would mean something to them and they'd be passionate about whatever they were writing. That'd be very helpful. Then the width of the pavement has to be a minimum of 6 feet, but we're going for 8 feet because it's actually cheaper, according to what Rick was told, to do 8 feet rather than 6 feet wide because they're machine. Yeah, exactly. Okay, then small ideas, John and I were talking about, and I had spoken to Alexandria about ways to perk up the points, and that is signage, and you can do that in a variety of ways. And so for handicapped people that are struggling, because there's a little bit of an incline from the parking area, it's fairly steep from the parking area back the other way toward the bathrooms. And so signage going this way for people that are just starting out, to go from the parking area down and have a little sign that says, turn around point X number of distance that they've covered, because it's a steep incline the rest of the trail. Once they start up from the road, when they make that corner, that's going to be steep. And unless you're in shape pushing a wheelchair, you're not going to be doing very good. And so some signage related to that to help them get an idea that it's going to be difficult coming back if they make the whole loop. But if they come back, just swing back 2/3 of the way or whatever, they can have a lot less of an incline there. Anyway, so that fairly well covers it. Any questions at all that I might be able to answer?
Can I,
Yeah, I've got a couple. Do you happen to know what the grade of that incline is?
I don't.
Because to be handicap accessible, it has to be under a certain grade, and I think it's like 4%.
Mm-hmm.
So,
1 in 12.
1 in 12?
Slope.
So, okay. The other thing is, I'm looking at the CIP we got, and it shows 200,000 each year for 2023 and 2024 4-year loop.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it's gonna be significantly less than that.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it's in 2023, I'm assuming getting the grant would have construction in 2023.
That is correct. Yep. And what the routine goes that we would submit to them, excuse me, and in September, they would make a decision. And then we can actually score more points, from what I understand, between, and of course Dave could answer a bunch of these questions because he's been through it, between September and October. If they had like a flood of letters, that's a helpful thing to get more points in their decision process. And then in the springtime, that's when they actually put out the money, and it would be late spring. And so then we would have those funds plus the funds that the Leelanau County and maybe some public funds from support of the public, that we would let that out and look for funds from the public also for this handicap trail.
And I got one last question.
Mm-hmm.
What they just did at the school with that whole new area, it also has a trail that's wandering around that park that they just put in. Does that lessen the need for the Miles Kimberly, which is only a 1.5 miles?
That would not lessen the need, because accessibility at the school is not, it's busy a lot. And most people don't want to be, number one, they've got fenced in areas and so forth there. It's not so much public, it's more school use rather than public use. Even though yes, it's a public school, it's designed for the school.
Okay.
Dave? He's got it all down.
well, no.
I'm a newbie at this.
I have cautionary words to you, Mike, about getting this in at all so quickly. And Steve and John, Casey and I have gone through certainly being aware, well, Laurel's done so much of the application. It's extremely competitive. And so even if the gal you've talked to has been wildly enthusiastic, I think she's been very positive about your energy and et cetera. I really can't imagine her being that enthusiastic about the reality of getting this in this April 1st. In the first place, I right now, I don't see how you would match, how you would get a request to the county commission this month and get approval of it, because you're going to have that done before you
Agreed.
actually drop it in.
That's
April
a
1st.
dilemma.
And, well, it's huge. I mean, it's more than just a dilemma. It's a hurdle that I'm not sure how you get through that, because you'd have to have an awful lot done in order to go with a dollar figure to the county commission this month. That's only what? The meeting's only.
And if I understand that, and if we can't work it out, we'll have all the groundwork laid for the following year. So it's I'm not not gonna break my heart if
No.
it doesn't get done, because
And
it's just
that's-
moving forward with a
that's right.
project that would be great for the park and
That's
great for
fine.
the public.
That's fine, and I do think Natural Resources Trust Fund is usually, and even in the past, the last year that we made that application, most of that money goes for acquisition, land acquisition. Recreational Passport is almost entirely for development. So I really think this project, and I have thought that this project was made for a recreational passport. Do check on that required match, because that was different in the years that we've done it. It was a much higher required match for recreational transport.
Yeah.
And then,
According to Alexandria, the 150,000 is the mark, and once you go above that, then it'd be, I'll double check on that, but that's what she was indicating.
okay, if it had to go to Resources Trust Fund, then you're competing against their priorities, that money be used for land acquisition as opposed to development.
I see.
Now, the other thing is, no matter how enthusiastic she was about earning points, you really need to see the scoring possibilities for each category. The last year we went for recreational transport, there was a category worth, I don't remember, 35, say, to 50 points, which is a bunch, that we couldn't even compete for because they were for urban areas only. And we have a hard time competing from this county, this far north, and as wealthy as the county supposedly is, we have a hard time competing to get those points. And yeah, you get points for having in good support letters, but the total possible might be 10, and you get 8 if you got a lot. And it takes a while to add up to, each one was different. Once we were trying to get above 3, up to 320 or something.
Yeah.
And we were about 270.
Scott crunched some numbers, and I don't know if it was the grading from the last time we tried it.
No,
or
it was the most recent one.
Go ahead.
I scored it and I got between 140 and 165. Not very good. There's a lot of work to do. Some of it's unattainable. So a large portion of it is because we're in the top third of the median income.
Okay.
So that was huge. I think it was like 40.
And the way to get around that is with a much larger match from the county. Well, that
Yeah.
takes you into another whole sales effort over time. So I don't want to discourage what you're doing at all.
Right, no,
No.
it's timing.
For this April,
Sure.
don't get
Sure.
your hopes up.
I won't lose my enthusiasm.
Okay.
We will get it paved. It's just that we want to make the mark and move on it. Okay, even if we can't get it done, if we have all the plan and we're all set, it gives us a lot more time and all prepared to get
Yes.
more funding, to get more people on board and et cetera. So it's,
Exactly.
it's just hard. We just shouldn't stand around and wait for it to happen.
No,
Okay.
we appreciate your enthusiasm because this has been talked about for a while, and it's one of the more probably beneficial, benefits everybody, not just one specific group. So the enthusiasm is great.
When we started the pathway toward the Veronica pitch for a recreation transport grant, we didn't really have a bona fide plan for Veronica Valley, which is one of the things that we really were striving for over the years. We wanted a bona fide plan for each of our parks, put together by a landscape architect or such. And as we got into it at Veronica Valley, we decided to hire Gosling Zubek to go ahead and do one of those plans. And as they got into that, we realized that we were due for our 5-year upgrade on our plan, overall plan. And so that morphed from the Veronica Valley plan to our 5-year plan, which we hired them to help us garner that 5-year plan so we could just go out for grants. And on it went. At the Miles side, we've got a plan that we've already chopped up pretty badly And I guess I'm thinking that we're at a point with Miles that we need a bona fide plan. And then we need something that we would be able to show contractors or show the commissioners. I know Rick got a ballpark from Elmer's, and obviously they're a kind of outfit that could go and do something without a bona fide plan per se, just like a series of flags and, yeah, we'll put this in for this much, kind of, you know, I don't know where we are with Miles, whether we need to hire somebody to to go ahead and rearrange our plan and give us something that we can show, an engineered cross-section, an engineered this. I don't know if we need that or not, but we need to have the discussion to decide where we're going with that.
Right. Related to that, John and I were talking. I do know a landscape architect who did some work at Trinity Lutheran Church for me for the grounds there, and related to a garden project, which is all the way around the whole church. And she did a very nice job and didn't charge an arm and a leg. And anyway, I was thinking about contacting her just to chat with her and see if she might be interested in doing something with Miles Kimberly and give me an approximation of what it would cost and throw out the things that we've already spoken of and just see what she thinks and see what she comes up with. So I'm definitely on that page too. You know, what I'm thinking, of course, it's a lot of pressure, but is that maybe, you know, what I'm hearing from everybody, of course, and I saw smiles when you know, we'll look to next year. Maybe we should just start really put this together and spend a lot of time and not try to, because Miles Kimberly did not meet ahead. I just chatted with Don, and I've chatted with the coordinator also at length, but just roll with it and not worry about making that April 1st mark, because the key, as mentioned in my note to the others, having permission from the board and getting that backing is critical. And so it wouldn't afford us a lot of time and just create a lot of stress. So since I'm in the recreation mode, I can decrease stress, right?
I think that'd be your best plan.
Okay, all right.
Personal opinion, but if you take the whole next year to make
Put it
sure
together.
every duck is in the row, that's gonna give you your best time.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. So it gives us all plenty of time to plan. Yeah, Laura?
Just to kind of recap for you, because I don't think you were here at the time, that Dave was extraordinarily busy.
Can you? Thank you.
When Dave worked on the grant opportunity that we formally applied for on behalf of Veronica, as soon as that opportunity opened up in January, and it was actually somewhat delayed, so I want to say it was near the end of January, they kept backing off the time that they would allow us to formally apply. So once that was open, he had all his ducks in a row from the 5-year plan process and finalizing what they wanted this opportunity to look for Veronica. And then we were able to start uploading documents as we went. And then we scheduled something for the Board of Commissioners in probably January or February to approve the application. And then it wasn't until maybe a special session in March to approve something so that we could go forward with that final submission.
I think there were certainly two approaches to the commission, and this is something I want to get straight when someone else doesn't. I misunderstood your instructions now years ago to get permission to make the application. You need the application complete down to the $sign of the match and everything before you go to the commission.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, and I went to the commission first time thinking I'm asking them, is it okay to go for a state grant?
Right.
So I had no answers for the permission, and it was a pleasant experience. So, so understand that it isn't asking permission to do all of this work, you gotta do all this first, and have it all ready and detailed, and the visuals, and following Laurel's suggestions.
Okay, because my first impression was exactly that we had to ask the board, is this okay to do that?
And that's,
But no longer.
I went there under misunderstanding, and I had no answers to anything. Because I thought I was asking for something different than I expected you to answer. So, okay.
Keep the ball rolling.
Okay, will do.
Okay, moving on to the Survey Monkey.
I still have to talk to Trudy about that. We've
Okay.
both been kind of busy, but I will have a conversation with her, and then I can follow up by email to everyone, letting them know what's going on. Just to go back a bit, one of the suggestions I had made was creating a survey specific to each park that we could post some sort of QR code, and then whoever visits the park, you know, just make it something simpler. We want to know your thoughts on the park. What do you like? What do you don't like? And then I'll work with each park committee to draft like no more than probably 5 questions. You got to keep it simple. And then, because I think Trudy might still have just a really basic Survey Monkey account that we can tag this in. And then I think I can probably have something a little more concrete for everyone by next month.
And you're scoring the points for a state grant application. Having that would be another, probably 1 point in that list of documented public support that we've gone out and asked. So that would be a very good step. It will be a good step.
Moving on to the Parks Brochure review.
That's just a pickup from last month.
Right.
Someone wanted to add that back onto there.
I talked to the enterprise, and chatted about the different things that this group brought up. I don't know if I can just see where I am. One of the things that this group wanted to talk about was highlighting. And so it was Paul that I was talking to at the enterprise, and he's going to play with it a little bit and see the best way to highlight, whether you take what we've done before and do red letters, or if you change up what we're doing and do black letters for highlighting, and
Highlighting features of each park.
yeah, the features of each park. That was what was wanted to be highlighted. We're going to add cross-country skiing to Veronica and Miles. And then we've got the early bird pricing, so.
You look at pictures.
I'm still looking. I've got so many files, I'm not very good at labeling them correct, so.
I think, you know, they're good to work with, so, you know, once fall photos are garnered, be it now or in the moment of the fall, we could definitely work them in and
I'll keep looking.
for sure have them for
Hundreds
next
of
year.
thousands of files to go through, so. When I'm in there, I keep looking like, okay, I'll find it eventually.
Steve, related to the highlight, the coloring, red does stand out. Years ago, I did some sales related to listings of criteria, and whenever I used red, it caught the people's eyes. I was selling points, is what I was doing, and so the red lettering really brings their attention and makes it seem more special.
Do we need new brochures yet? In terms of our supply?
I think we're close to the end of these, aren't we, Steve?
We were doing stickers on them. I've got
Yeah.
a box downstairs. There's a pretty good number there. I'll give a rough count and talk to
Okay,
Laura.
because Don's concern was the QR code on the inside is inaccurate. But we had that label that we put on the outside that shows the true website. So I'm hoping most people would just go to that.
Right.
I don't think we have a whole lot left. Because there might have been 200 when I first labeled stuff. And I know that Northport Visitor Center has taken quite a few to distribute every year. I want to say I gave her at least 100 last year.
I'll do a rough count
Okay.
and talk to Laura then.
No, the only question I have with red is like, when we have maps with a green background, I wonder about, visual impairment with red and green, color blindness. But, that's all I know.
That's interesting, something I never thought about.
So is Enterprise gonna get back to us with,
Yeah, he was supposed to get back to me.
so we
I
might,
can,
okay.
I'll bump him.
Because this is another one, we gotta keep making the decision if we're gonna be running out of the ones we have, it'll be.
Well, this is,
Another couple months, and we'll need to make an order.
yeah, this is used to the
The ads
brochure,
are
but this is for
different.
the ad.
Yeah.
Oh,
For,
just
you
talking
know,
about, just
the
talking about
visitor's
the
guide
ad,
to
not the
color
brochure,
tour.
not the brochure.
Not the brochure, but we use this in the brochure, so, and they, I think they print it, right?
Yeah.
So, it's one and the same.
Any other questions on that?
Do you have a list of who already has the brochures from the previous times?
People just come in and ask, people come and pick up.
Individuals, and then that visitor center.
I remember dropping off a whole bunch at different places, Charlie, but I couldn't even remember right now where I left them.
I know I dropped them off in Glen Arbor at
At the
that kiosk there.
I dropped some off at the Empire Bank, the library.
Chamber of Commerce would be a great spot.
Oh, Enterdyne went through a lot of what I kept supplying.
I could bring them next time. We could
Do that.
distribute
Do a
them and just print
redistribution.
new.
Oh, what organization sends out little packets to new residents in the county?
I don't know. what
Who does
it
that?
is.
Oh, like the welcome wagon kind of
Yes,
thing?
absolutely, because we should always include it in that.
I know they still did that.
I don't know if that's
Yeah,
even still in
I don't
existence.
know anything about it.
Yeah, okay, maybe we could ask the Chamber of Commerce, because they, they're in business.
Right.
For that kind of a thing. I know when I was a kid, we moved and we got a big packet of stuff. Yeah,
Steve, if you could bring in copies at our next meeting, the brochure,
I'll bring the box,
you
Yeah.
bring it back.
and we'll distribute them. Then that'll get us to the point where we need to, well, we'll save enough that Laurel will garner savings, so she has some, and then we can distribute the rest and then have another printing done, and we can come up with a number.
I don't think we have very many left. I think we're very low.
Okay.
One thing that I should add is Melinda had asked me how many hits the parks pages get. And part of your packet, it says page 12 on the lower right-hand side, is a copy of an email from Trudy. The parks, the county parks page, which is geared more towards visitors, we had 710 hits last year. The actual Parks and Rec page, that's more of an administrative, includes all of your stuff, we had 949 hits last year, so that's good.
Well, a lot of the people that travel here in the summer are used to going to a park.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing when they get here, trying to figure out where is the public space that I don't have to pay to go to.
Yeah.
So I think that is it's a bigger thing than what maybe us here that have land to walk around on and stuff. It's kind of a focal point.
In fact, that's a great point. In the brochure, having the word free, I'm serious. It brings people's eyes to things. Highlighting free fishing,
Right.
et cetera, because particularly fishing, because often you have to pay to get somewhere to go fishing. And like at Veronica Valley, you got that great little pond for fishing.
Sure. Money's here at 12. What's that? Money's here at 12.
That's right. No license required.
Okay, moving on. Is there any other questions on the brochures? Wayfaring signage.
You've got a picture of, in your, today's packet of both the Miles Kimmerly and Veronica Valley signage that we, the committees, have decided on. So I guess I'm looking for approval from this group. If you recall, well, no, that was at the committee level. We wondered about highlighting the trails more. We've done them in colors. The colors weren't right. I mean, they really didn't show up well enough. The last iteration that Rob Herman made for us was just a black hatched line, and we suggested, Scott suggested, a white drop shadow. He tried that, and I think he preferred what he's done here with the white dots. Our committee likes it. We also upped the size of the numbers that would be affixed to each post to tell a viewer what post they're standing at, so what their location is on the map.
That's good.
Any questions, motion?
Is there anything, I don't see any distance between points.
That, Don brought this up for Miles Kimmerly. Veronica, I just don't see the need of it.
Well, what's the distance between point 2 and point 3 at Veronica Valley?
Well, I guess it's small enough. I'm not sure that that's that critical. It says part of our goal was to keep as little off the sign as possible, not a lot of detail. John?
Also, there's a scale on the map. So if you have enough images that is 2 fingers long, then you should be smart enough to see approximately what it is. And
I'm just being a user of the map.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, it's good.
Well, actually, that's perfect, because if you just post this, they'll be able to see exactly what you're talking about right at the front at the little kiosk. Then they'll know what, from this point it's to this, that point is this, and et cetera. You wouldn't need, I don't think, posting it all along the way.
Well, but then you end up with, it was Rob Herman that suggested that we have this numbering system, a number on the post, because then each sign is the same print. If you're going to do a different sign for your lead off that has distances, well, it's an extra cost.
Right,
It's an
right.
extra. Right, so, did your committee, no, who's on the Miles, yeah, did your committee
Talk
discuss
about
further?
mile
about-
markers.
About
We
distance?
didn't talk about mile markers at all, did we? Scott?
Yeah, we did, that's why they're on there.
Okay, all right, okay. I thought that was your idea.
Actually, the Miles Kimmerly has the distance between points.
Yeah.
On the map.
Yep, on the back trail. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm missing it. Where is it?
There's little.
It's right on the trail.
It says, on the map, it says 0.06 miles, 0.42 miles.
About halfway between
I
the
got
marker
you.
points.
I got you.
But that's missing from the Veronica Valley map.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, Scott's everybody's opinion.
I don't think we need it.
I don't think, my gut feeling is that.
It's just a little tiny loop around there.
Yeah,
Charlie, the location of the posts at Veronica were chosen, not the ones right leading out of each of the parking lots. So those are 3 of the signs, but the other 3, numbers 3, 4, and 5, were chosen specifically because those are intersections where you cannot see a parking lot. So you have no orientation. That's why we chose to put those there. And then the map leading off each trailhead from 2 from the main parking lot, 1 from the back. Are you saying, do you have a strong opinion that there ought to be?
I think there ought to be distances on the map. Not necessarily on the sign, what the
No.
point sign, but if I got this map in my hand and I'm at point 4, and I wanna know do I wanna go on to point 5?
Well, but you won't have this map in your hand. I mean, we're not talking about giving out maps, we're talking about having.
I might have it on my phone, I might have it
Okay.
in my,
There's
in my
a scale
paper
on there,
copy
man.
in my hand.
Yeah.
Now, there isn't that scale.
Right.
If I wanna have a little ruler with me so I can stop and measure it out.
Right, well, like, at the very beginning, when somebody looks at this map, it is nice to know how far you're going. Because that's kind of like a reward, a self-reward. You look at that and you
Probably
say,
wouldn't be real hard to
no.
add what they've done to Miles to Veronica.
No, it's not hard, I mean.
Right.
Just put it on here.
Couple of.
Right,
Don't put it on the signage, but just put it on.
Rob could do it with couple clicks of the keyboard.
Okay, now I'm lost when you say, don't put it on the signage.
I mean, put it on here.
That's gonna be on the place.
Okay, this is the actual,
This is the actual
It's
sign.
gonna be larger than that.
okay, all right, never mind, I got you.
Yeah, if Rob could put it on, if it's no big deal.
Okay, I guess I was confused. This is the sign,
Yes,
the image of the sign.
yes,
Oh,
except
okay.
it will be larger than this. The actual size of the sign is 14 by 11.
Okay.
Okay, that, I was mistaken
too,
too,
me
I
too.
thought this was secondary from the signs themselves, but I thought this was right at the
I mean,
At the front.
main part of it.
again,
Yeah,
I got you.
putting on my user hat, I go online, I look up Veronica Valley Park, and I pull this thing up, and it shows me the trails, and this also indicates that from getting from the parking lot to 2 and then to 3, and back to the parking lot is gonna be X number of, is X distance.
This is a whole spider web of routes, and if you go to point number 2, or number 6, is you coming this way, or you coming that way, or is 6 that far from the parking lot, or? I know, I see this, there's only 2 loops.
I mean, if there's,
Yes.
in my opinion, if there are people on this board that think it's a good idea, it's not gonna take much to add it to that.
No, it's not.
Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and then we'll look at what it's done.
Yeah.
See, okay. And it's perfectly easy. Rob can get those exact distances precisely.
The point something is usually close enough.
Well, and that's been I see the point that, okay, I know Veronica real well.
That's what I was gonna say, people
But
that don't know
There
it.
may be
Is
plenty
for
of
your
users
audience.
first time who don't know. And ahead of time might like to know, oh, that's basically a mile around,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So I see the value of that.
When somebody's not quite as slender as you, David, they'd like to know that they can't go but a quarter mile.
Or if you have children.
That's
Those trails
right.
are perfect for
That's
kids, but
right.
it looks a lot bigger and longer than it actually is.
Right.
Okay, so the,
Move to have these done with the mileage added to Veronica Valley.
Second.
Smith, second.
correct. All those in favor?
All right?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Nicely done.
They look really nice.
They do.
They do.
Moving on to committee reports. Miles Kimmerly. Don's not here, but you,
Well, I kind of gave
the,
pretty much the report,
Okay.
everything we've been doing a little bit earlier, so we're gonna move ahead slowly with the Miles Kimberly paved area, and not try to stack it all in a little too fast a motion there, but we'll get our ducks in a row, and we're excited about getting that paved, and I think it'll work out just fine.
See how good of a year Elmer's had and see if they want to make any donations.
See, it's funny you said that because I'm concerned because the correlation of asphalt cost is directly correlated with the cost of oil. And I wouldn't be surprised if the cost of oil in a year's time adds another 50% on it.
If usually I see Todd Broad a couple times a summer, I can ask if they would be willing to honor, how long, give us a little better deal or how long they can honor.
That would be wonderful.
I don't know, I usually
Sure,
see him, but I
Sure,
don't.
no, that'd be
no
really,
guarantees.
Very helpful.
I know that on our next meeting, we'll probably be talking about, we had 2 items on miles that we were, looking at, and had a certain amount, ballpark number on them. It was the addition to the shed for storage and office, and then it was the enclosure that got to be called a kiosk. But it's the enclosure for the porta potties on a slab that includes a universally accessible porta john, and then a kiosk on the side of it, and then the water fill, the bottom fill station. So that will probably move forward to a certain degree. We just need to see where we are with cash, and that'll kind of come out a little bit later today, and then as we move to the next meeting and the next meeting, we'll have a better idea what we have to work with and whether we can move forward to whatever degree with that kiosk porta potty enclosure.
Keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.
I had a question to Scott. At this point, we have no portable water or potable water, how many at miles?
Yes and no.
Okay. Okay.
We normally do, but because of the grub shack construction, deconstruction, we do not.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns about?
Just related to the well, that's still in great shape, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So all we gotta do is basically have a place for it to run to and put it out.
Right.
Okay.
We have to have electricity to it.
Bingo.
It gets tested 4 times a year.
Okay.
The tests come back great. It's very good tasting water.
Yep, had it there, it's good. Okay.
Moving on to Old Settlers. Anything on the playground equipment? Has Melinda, I haven't talked to her.
The only thing I got was just a guesstimate on mulch adding. Anywhere from 12,000 to 20 or 1,200.
I was gonna say, boy, that's a lot of
2,800. Yeah.
Rich mulch.
Is that for the rubber stuff or just regular mulch?
It's called engineered wood fibers.
Okay, yeah, whatever it is.
And I called a local company, and they weren't sure what that was, but they have playground mulch. That, not a normal product that they have it shipped in.
Okay.
So that's where I got the
price. Okay.
I know Scott and I talked a little bit.
But the other one was installation included, clean up,
The whole works.
yeah, you write the check and
They're
walk
here.
away.
And that's the company that,
It's a company that
That-
specializes in that sort
Okay.
of thing.
Melinda's had talked to somebody at their planning commission meeting, so I didn't know where that stood,
Yeah.
but I haven't talked to her, so.
That I wanted Scott to have an idea and bring it to us. One of the reasons that Scott brought that number to us was that once that material gets placed, it doesn't go away. It really stays put. And if you toss some freebie chips that got chipped down the street and dumped, they go away in a hurry.
Yeah.
Especially under playground equipment. If Scott's got to be down there every day with a rake and a tamper and trying to keep these things in one place, or if we write a check and have the engineered material go there, and he doesn't have to go there once a year even, then the value at the end of the year
For labor.
starts to look pretty equal
Yep.
in my mind. But I wanted to do that because the last thing we need to do is to put more jobs on Scott's plate because he has more than he can do most of the time during the field season.
Yeah, the little higher cost is a good idea. I know because I've shoveled the playground equipment area at our Trinity Lutheran Church and School there. We're out there shoveling several times a year to put it back into where it needs to be because it all gets kicked away. And we shovel several times a year to keep it in place.
And I talked to Zach Stans about the rocks in front of he's in Hawaii right now, but he'll do it. He didn't have any oversized rock right now, so I called my cousin Bob John at Castle Santa Gravel, and we can get stone to put there. And Zach will move them for us.
Cool.
So
Good job.
sometime in the spring, I said, Zach, this isn't a back burner item. This needs to get done. We'll just pick a day and do it. So, and he said, that's fine. Okay. So whatever, half a dozen rocks or whatever. So,
Some big boulders.
yeah.
Remind me again, they're going between cars and what?
They're going between the road and the swing set to try and put something there. Yeah. There's nothing there, and there's people parking there. I mean, you got a kid on the swing set, and somebody hits the gas.
Somebody runs right into the playground.
Exactly.
So one item, we should probably have a meeting fairly soon. Maybe you can bump into Melinda
Okay.
and see what's going on. We're gonna wanna keep the warranty with that equipment
Right.
when we install it. So someone's gonna have to touch base with that company and say, okay, if we have volunteers, how does it go? And what is needed to keep the warranty?
I didn't think about that.
And then placement of it is important. Landscape architect could place it, maybe they have personnel that could place it. It needs to be in a spot where we won't have to move it.
Right.
Or it's not in a position where risk management will come up and say, that's gotta go somewhere else. So those are the two items that came to my mind. Scott and I again chatted a little bit. If it is gonna be a Nate Griswold, he is a contractor, if he's gonna run the show and, do it, if it is gonna start and proceed and be finished, that would be a wonderful thing. If we hire the company that we bought it from, or a specialized company that does that kind of thing, it starts, it gets done, and it is done. Scott had the diagrams out, and he and I were kind of looking at them, visioning whether, if we were gonna be on the crew.
Yeah.
It's a little more involved than what.
It's real interesting because the heights have to be just exactly right, and then all of the planes have to be just exactly right. And one plane was 4 inches from this plane, in the diagram looking sideways.
That was just one example. There's
Right.
29 posts.
Yeah, they have to be exact.
and
They
it
have to be
doesn't plan.
exact. It's
They
not
gotta
like
be
a house
secure.
where you can fudge it a little bit.
So,
Blend
so,
here and there. It's gotta be right, so.
and you're probably putting quickcrete around the posts, or you've got the posts have to be I don't know. I looked at that and I went,
Yeah.
it's gonna take some thought.
It
and-
takes transits, lasers, strings, the whole.
And the directions are very vague, to say the least.
So what is the cost of having the company or a specialized company or this company that sold us that product?
Rumor has it was around 8,000, from what I think Melinda said. I don't. not
What was
sure.
it from the company that sold it to us? Because they gave us a bid on what it would cost.
Yeah, and I think it was 8,000.
It was about $8,000.
But that's where the warranty, if they did it, the warranty was 100 years instead of 2 or something. I mean, there was a variety of warranty times depending on how it was put together.
I think
And
the
the
max,
max
I think the max on the slide, which was my concern, because I've seen those break.
Right.
And I think their max was 3 years, no cracking. So we'll have to look at that and see if that can be, if they do it,
The biggest thing is this time. I mean, if Nate can't get rolling on it, then.
And people who,
Right, getting enough, and how many people do you need? That's kind of one of those jobs, if you've never done it before, how do you know how many people you need?
yeah, you either have too many or not enough.
Right, and having somebody that has
That show up.
legitimate access to all of the equipment that you need. Little excavator, skid steer,
Yeah.
auger, the whole, I mean, you can't say, well, this is, it's gotta be pretty well organized. They lucked out in Solon, I mean, they had, and their resources are stretched pretty far and wide there, but,
Right.
here we don't have, I mean, we have a lot of resources, but it doesn't seem that we can tap a resource for.
Yeah, the chamber had good connections.
Yes.
Right.
But maybe Nate can get it done, but it's just, I mean, we're already coming, our next meeting is April, and it'd be nice to have that in the ground May or June, and
So when you bump into Melinda, we better,
get moving.
yeah, have a meeting, or maybe she could go ahead and reach out to Nate. I don't know, maybe you could put your heads together if you need a meeting. If we need a meeting, we better do it.
Okay.
All right.
And there's always an option that if he has constraints and can't meet with you in person, we could Zoom him in.
Okay.
And related to the maintenance, would you be responsible, Scott, for maintenance on this, or? Okay, all right, because that's gonna add maintenance, that's gonna add time to you, not just the stuff that gets
Well, I
underneath all
hope
the
it
equipment.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It should be pretty maintenance-free, but yeah,
Power wash once a year.
Well, yeah, but tightening up, nuts and bolts on it,
yeah.
I just wonder, that's gonna be a key thing, because if it starts to get loose, you gotta check all the bolts on a fairly regular basis. Maybe it's annual or
Well,
biannual.
we've got that newer one in Veronica. What's that like to maintain?
It's held up great. We haven't had to do anything to it.
So,
There's that small one at Miles too, it's quite small, but that's held up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Getting a little cattywampus.
Yeah, see, that's the key, because if you start getting loose, and it'll be a larger one for you, so I'm just
The
saying that's,
plastic on the one at Miles is cracking and stuff moved around.
yeah.
It's no big deal, but
Yeah. I guess just something, part of it, we'll work it in somewhere.
Yeah.
Scott will take care of it.
He's like, gulp.
Anything else under Old Settlers? I don't have anything. Veronica Valley?
The biggest thing that I was going to bring was the signage, which we've already done. Laurel, what's the status of the bids on the entry to the
They
parking
were
lot?
open and you haven't met to review them.
Okay. Parking lot design is here. I think that was because at our last meeting, I had the intent of this group looking at parking lot design in order to make sure we didn't screw up the entry location relative to a future parking lot. And in discussing that, it's really been handled in the bid. I mean, so we haven't agreed on any parking lot design, and I'm not sure that's critical very soon, because the parking lot itself is going to come on down the line. But we will be putting the entrance in to be flexible on that future choice. So I don't have any parking lot plan to bring to you today.
Okay. Any other questions under Veronica?
should we move on? Should we have a motion on the bids, the bid opening, and?
You haven't reviewed them to make a recommendation to this full body yet.
It's got to go through us. Okay,
Which is
got
the
it.
14th of this month, right?
I did talk to Heather via email, and last year we were able to get a bill from Legis Fish Farm on April 30th, and we were able to have the county cut a check, and we got it in Dave's hands, and Dave was there at planting and handed it to Mr. Legis, or his worker.
It was to Mr. well, I guess it was Mr. Leggett, whoever
I think it is.
the senior gentleman was.
Yeah, I think it
that
is.
was running the show. Where are we with Heather's presentation?
She's gonna be able to call in next month. I think she's gonna be out of town, but maybe Laurel and I can be in touch with her via email and maybe Zoom her in. That'd be kinda cool. So she could give us a few words, but we're gonna have the bill in hand well before stocking day so we can put that through our system and have a check cut. And then last year, we did get a bill for a few more fish from from Lonnie Redneck, the association chair of the committee or whatever he is. But anyway, we do buy a few more fish to show our support for Kids Fish Day. Last year, we bought 249.2 bluegills at $2.06 each. And it happened to come out to exactly $500.
It's pretty amazing how it works. So, I mean, how they provide us with so many fish. I mean, we pay for X amount, but because I called him last year because I wanted to buy some bluegills to put in our pond. And I thought, okay, I can pay for 300 or 400 of them and just leave those on the truck or whatever. He goes, oh no, because I can't fit another bluegill in there. He goes, I think and he goes, no, I can't do that.
That was true. There wasn't anything.
What do you do? He can give you that .2.
Because you have to pay for freight, and I said, I'll pay and everything. He goes, no. He goes, that's a special deal. I'm not.
Yeah, this gentleman,
He really,
Heather's worked with him over time, and this is the best deal in the state according to Heather. And we have a pond
Separate pond.
at his place that he sets aside for us and for Kids Fish Day at Veronica Valley.
I'll be there.
Yeah. But we buy enough fish to stock for the year. And we stock the two long ponds in the back, and we stock the ponds in front. It's more than enough for Kids Fish Day, and we have a pretty good overwintering, and Heather can probably touch on that the last time she talked. We did have a netting, and we get really decent overwintering and end up with a good number of bluegills, and we haven't had to plant bass in like 10 years or more. So it's really a good balance, and we get some overwintering. And
Migrating down the creek into Lake Leelanau?
no.
No? Okay.
Is
The
there
creek doesn't flow into the ponds.
is there a sign indicating ice fishing is okay or anything like that?
ice is unsafe.
Ice is
There are
unsafe?
springs all over in there.
Okay,
And the signs say the ice is unsafe.
okay, smart.
There was one year someone sputtered a few holes in there, but I haven't seen anything in years.
Yeah, it would be great to fish out the fish.
Yeah,
you know,
I've been there
that
with
were
the
left
fish,
in there.
yeah.
Yeah, because they'd be the biggest, you know?
Okay.
All right.
Moving on to public comment. Do not see anybody. Commissioner comments.
I'm gonna make one comment. We've got the CIP plan to look at. It wasn't on today's agenda. We
Right.
probably want to have it like on next month's agenda. Or when do we actually update the CIP?
We
Because
never
I'm seeing
have.
disconnects between the stuff we're talking about and what's actually in this plan. Okay, such as the pad and whatnot at Miles Kimmerly. I don't see it in the CIP.
I can kind of touch base on that. My whole thought process with being aware of what the CIP has in it for parks was brought because in listening to some of the commissioners, one of their, and it's kind of a valid complaint, was, well, you don't even, it's X amount of dollars and you don't even have it in the CIP. It's like you're not even planning for this thing. So that made me realize we have to make sure, and everyone was pretty good with the various committees to come up with a list of concerns they wanted added to the CIP so the board wouldn't feel blindsided in having this brought to them. So with that being said, when you look at that document, which is an excerpt of the current 2021 through 2027 CIP, look at your 5-year plan, because the three groups need to review the approved park plan, which is through 2024, and if you don't have something identified within your respective park on that CIP, you need to add it. That way the board knows you're proactively looking ahead and planning for the expenditure.
And going for a grant, they want it in your plan so you can point to the plan and say, here's where the dollars are in the grant.
Well, there's that, but the big thing is the board and they hold the purse strings. And if they're gonna be handing over money, they'd like to see that, yes, we've been thinking about this for a while, we've had it in our plan, and it's also part of the county's approved CIP.
I'm assuming the numbering on these CIP items are the year first followed by a sequence number, and
if
looks like
you-
the oldest thing for the parks is 2016.
If you look at the page preceding the table, it lets you know what 1, 2, and 3 means. There's a
Those are the
short,
priority group, and I'm looking at the numbering scheme, so we got 2016-02, which is for a patrol boat on Lake Michigan by the sheriff's department.
yep,
So I'm assuming that originated in 2016.
Correct.
It's about that long or
yep,
whatever.
it was that year and that number.
All right, that's my commissioner comment for today.
Anybody else?
I want to thank Laurel for putting this together.
This is,
Here, here.
Appreciate that. You did a lot.
Amen.
I just thought that since I'm potentially becoming your administrative assistant, I would make everyone organized.
Good luck with me.
And you will stick.
Now we just have to remember to bring it.
Yes, you better, or you'll get the pinch next month.
Well, some of that then has to go into those two books, I guess.
Can you put a rack over here so we just place it in there?
Well, the intent is you'll follow up on
I
your
know.
assigned tasks.
Thank you anyway. That was-
Thank you very
much.
Here, here.
okay, nothing from me, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
That was quick.
Yep, we'll see you, John.
So you continue to record.
We're gonna have a crop this year, Steve?
And then,